At this time, I call the Neighborhood Jobs and Housing Committee to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Councilmember Gruber. Councilmember Smith is excused. Vice President Harris. Here. President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
As we have no presentations today for this committee, we will just get right to the work. Introductory number 62, authorizing the sale of real estate, appropriating 2024-2025 annual action plan funds, and authorizing a grant agreement for the construction and sale of 7 affordable single-family homes in the Beechwood neighborhood. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 62, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 63, amending ordinance number 2024-73 relating to the Greater Rochester Habitat for Humanity by the Block Phase 2 project. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Gruber.
Yeah, just a question about both this and the last introductory. Given what's happening in the world economy and tariffs and pricing, how locked in are we to expenses here?
Councilmember Gruber, thank you for the question. The pricing for all of these houses is not really locked in. We can't really, nor do the contractors, buy in advance for the materials, so we're to some extent at the mercy of the market price at the time. So we will work very hard to get things that we can get in bulk, for example, roofing shingles or things like that. We would certainly ask the builder to try and stockpile those things to avoid any price increases. But for some things that are more bulky, like lumber, plywood sheathing, things like that, we're likely at the mercy of the market.
So understood, but given, sorry that I'm going back to instruction number 62, but the term agreement is for 2 years with a maximum grant amount of $30,000 per home. So if somehow, some way, the contractor decides we can no longer do it at $30,000 a home, we need it to be $50,000 a home, we don't necessarily have that kind of latitude in our budget. So what is the kind of contractual language to, I won't even finish that question. What happens in that scenario where they can't do it for the price accounted for here?
That's something that we would have to work through with law and budget. So I'm happy to give you an answer in writing once we do that. That's not a question that's come up prior to this conversation. So.
And you're feeling at this point that that's not something that Habitat is it's not a concern they've brought up at this point either.
They have not brought that concern up.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes. Vice President.
Thank you. Just got a quick question. You have remaining 13 that's for the by the block. Do you have any idea or the location of those 13 properties?
Yes, we do. We have a map of all of the properties. We'd be happy to provide that to you.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a question regarding the by the block program in general. So in phase 2, City of Rochester employees are prohibited from participating in this program. And I found that out because somebody contacted me who was a crossing guard, and they were told, nope, you can't play. Is there a reason why we won't let crossing guards buy a house through this program?
There's nothing specific to crossing guards. The concern is exactly as you stated, city employees. Because it is a city program and it is a program that is essentially a lottery, it was deemed that city employees would not be eligible for fear that there would be some concern of favoritism or something.
I can understand the answer. I might not like the answer, but I can understand the answer. Questions? Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second for introductory number 63.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 63, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 64, authorizing a lease agreement for 6892 Genesee Street. I believe that is the laundromat that has been there forever. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yes, it's been a laundromat after the point where it was Dorschel Buick. So yes.
Oh,
After
wow.
that, it became a laundromat.
Okay, well, I don't never remember it being that, so, okay. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 64, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 65, appropriating additional funds and amending the loan agreement for the Federal Street and Scattered Sites Affordable Housing Project. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Just a yes.
President, yes?
So this here, this project, is it just? Oh, actually, my question is answered. You asked the same question.
Yeah.
So this is just a matter of the project cost going up. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. Thank you.
Which is funny, it's related to Councilmember Gruber's question. So Councilmember Gruber.
Yeah, just a question about the actual loan terms themselves. When we loan money to RHA, are all loans of this nature 30 years? Is that standard?
Yes, that's standard term.
And are there, like, I'm assuming RHA is an organization we've loaned to many, many times over. Do they have a track record of paying back earlier than the 30 years, or do they usually take the full 30?
I am not sure about anything earlier than 30 years. Generally speaking, though, they do pay in the 30. I don't know if you have. Anybody have?
Pretty standard. And just out of
Yep.
curiosity, most times that we do these 30-year loans, people take the full 30 years to pay it out.
Correct.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 65, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 66, authorizing an appropriation from the 2024-2025 Annual Action Plan, a loan agreement, and a payment in lieu of taxes for the Los Flamboyes Affordable Housing Project. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Comment.
Yes, President.
Yes, so I know that in the legislative review, Councilmember Patterson asked about federal government regulations regarding the relocation plan. It's my understanding that one of the concerns raised was whether or not the opportunity to relocate would affect someone's public benefits, because there was some, I think, lump sum payments involved in the project. And I believe I got an answer, not from the administration, but from folks at the county that believe that it will not impact their benefits. So I just would want to, on the record, put that question still in the rotation to make sure we get a definitive answer. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to commend your staff, Commissioner, for the research that they did and the information that they provided. But I still have concerns about that lump sum payment for the folks that are going to be permanently displaced as the townhouses are torn down and rebuilt. So can somebody explain to me how these, a little bit less than $10,000 gets you a place to stay? Because this is subsidized housing, right? So is that subsidy going to travel with them? I mean, if memory serves me correctly, this is project-based Section 8. Are those dollars going to follow them into the normal rental market, or are they just going to, have to pay the rent for however long at the market rate? Can someone explain that to me?
Yes, Leah is going to
God
answer
bless
that
you.
for us. Thank you.
So one of the attachments to what you have is a very long and very detailed relocation plan that aligns with HUD regulations. The funding is an extra amount of money. Whatever they have, they will carry with them, along with the support staff and the support with locating and moving. Please also note that they are officially known as permanently displaced, but they are not actually never going to go back.
Right.
It really is just a long-term temporary. So it's almost like I don't want to call it a perk, but it is not the only amount of support that they are receiving when they are being asked to move.
Okay. So I reviewed the information that was provided briefly, and I guess it still comes back to one of the statements in here is that they don't think they'll have a hard time finding comparable housing in the market. I challenge that thought. Comparable housing in the market at a comparable price is probably very difficult to find. If I could get some more information on whether or not, specifically and particularly with these units, are those project-based Section 8? If they are those units, is that project-based voucher going to be converted to open Section 8 for those folks for that period of time for displacement? Because if not, through the process, it may well all be approved and just and right, but I'm very concerned that we're putting these folks at a grave disadvantage. If you've been paying 30% of your gross income because it's project-based Section 8, and now we say, okay, now go out into the free market and go find housing, that's a whole different number than the number that they've been used to. And $10,000 might look like a nice little chunk of change, but it's change, and that's gone like that if you're paying market rate rent in the market rate environment that we have for something comparable to the townhouse that you're moving out of. So I am very concerned that even though I'm in favor of the project and we're going forward, I want to make sure that these people aren't harmed, that we do not forget about them, that they don't get left out here and they don't just get jammed. And it's kind of looking like, I'm feeling like they're getting jammed. And I want to know what in this process is assuring that they are not going to be jammed, that they are not going to be left out there. Again, if you qualify for the townhouse, for the project-based rent, you're usually not making a whole lot of money. Well, you can't go to market rate and it'll all be good, and it's not going to have a tremendous impact on your quality of life and quite literally your ability to stay housed. So I need some more information on this because I am very concerned about these folks.
Thank you for your concern. We are too.
I know, that's why I'm asking. But if you guys can get that to me,
Yep, we will do that.
Okay, so
Chairman,
yes.
there was someone in the back who wanted to make a comment. I'm not sure.
Please,
if they're from
come
the,
forward. Please, we've got a microphone for you and everything. Please state your name for the record, sir. I imagine you're from Landsman.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Tunovitz, and I work for a consulting firm, CVR Associates.
Okay.
And Landsman Develop has hired us. We are a public housing and affordable housing consultants.
Okay.
I'm also from the community.
Okay.
If I go back far enough, I used to run the Section 8 program for the Rochester Housing Authority.
Even better.
So we were hired to be the relocation consultants for this project. And Mr. Patterson, your concern is valid. A big part of our job is not only to make sure that the project is compliant with the federal rules called the Uniform Relocation Act, but also to make sure that we are treating the residents properly and fairly. So you mentioned it's almost $10,000. It's called the replacement housing payment. It is designed to make sure that for the relocation period, that the difference between what they are currently paying out of pocket and what they will pay in a replacement unit is covered. Generally, and I'm saying this is important, generally that cap, to be specific, $9,570. And so far we've successfully relocated all but 9 of the residents. Many of them have gone to places like St. Simon's or Phillips Village that have subsidized rents.
Okay.
But to answer the bottom line, to answer your concern, is if there is a particular family on a case-by-case basis where that replacement housing payment truly won't work, there is a rule called housing of last resort, and we are required by federal law to revisit that payment amount if there are, because there are a couple extremely low-income families that we're concerned about. So, and that is my job to advise the project to make sure we protect those families.
Okay, so.
And I'm happy to answer any specific question you have. So
We'll just go down the line. We'll start with Councilmember Gruber, Vice President, President.
So who hires you?
I was hired by Landsman Development.
You were hired by Landsman.
Yes.
And so what has been your relationship at this point with, or your communication with this, with the Department of Neighborhood and Business Development?
I have had some communications with the city. I'm not sure what department. I believe her name was Leah, who emailed me a bunch of questions, which I've responded to, specific to the relocation.
Okay. I mean, it just probably makes sense at some point to make sure. I think these are all useful. It's all useful information for us. But I think the key is that if Landsman's going to hire someone and the city has an obligation, the administration has an obligation to do these functions, it's probably important to make sure those connections happen up front. But I have no further questions. I appreciate the information.
Vice President.
Thank you. You mentioned the housing of last resort. How long does that process take? Because, as we know, sometimes processes take a while. So if there's a person or a family that's in need of this benefit, how long will that take them to get that benefit?
Well, if part of the issue is, in order to know whether they're going to need a housing of last resort payment, they need to have found replacement housing that they want to move into. I'm taking a little tangent, but it's extremely important. The families are being displaced. Even though they can come back in 20 months, they're being displaced. So choice is an important part of this. So when they believe they've secured something, but the money won't work, then we can start doing those calculations. But we could do them quite quickly. And frankly, the project would like everyone to be relocated by the end of this month. So time is not on our side. We have to work quickly with the families.
Thank you.
President.
Yes, thank you for answering our questions. Just at least two additional questions. So in this document that we received related to relocation services, there's reference to a right to return. Can you talk about what that process is going to look like, and is it everyone's right to return, or what are the factors that might change?
There's only a couple things that, and I'll be working with Landsman to flesh that out at a later point in time, but we'll be maintaining a list of everyone who's displaced, where they went, and in advance, when we know the units are getting ready to come online. The only thing that should hold people back is if one would be really good news, that their economic situation has changed so that they're no longer income eligible for the site, and the other would be that they had done something that would make them ineligible. Potentially, it could be criminal screening or something else. But generally, as long as the families remain in good standing, I guess the third potential issue would be is if household composition changed such that they no longer meet the occupancy standards. But as a whole, as long as families remain in good standing, they'll have that right to return.
And for those that are in the high rise, my understanding is that the construction will be kind of 2 floors at a time and go throughout the building, relocating people within the building as feasible while construction is going on. But in that right to return, will the residents who are in the building be allowed to go back to their original unit?
And the best answer I can give you is Landsman's making a good faith effort to displace people. It's not even displaced because they don't have to leave the site. Move for 6 to 8 weeks, return to the same unit. There would have to be some extenuating circumstances like needing an accessible unit or some other things that would prohibit that. But as a whole, that is the plan.
That's good to hear, because I think I've talked to some of the residents there, and the concern is not being able to return. I mean, some residents have 30 plus years in the same exact unit, so when it comes to like going to the DMV to have to change your address, even if you move 1 floor, it's a hassle for the tenant. So it is my hope that everyone who is returning has the opportunity to go back to the same unit, should they want that. And then my final question was related to the lump sum payments. How is that dispersed to the tenant that's relocating at this point?
Well, right now, and actually this is something that's been a little unique to this project, but part of it's being dispersed. If any of their new landlords who need first month's rent up front, which we understand, as mentioned, is low-income families, that it's being dispersed. One part of the payment's going to the new landlord to pay that first month's rent, then the remainder of it goes to the family, and it's up to them to deposit in the bank or to manage it as they see fit.
Yes, and I appreciate that and the answer. And I think one of the challenges that I would offer for consideration, and I think money in the hands of people is always a good thing. However, when you have a situation where you have to manage rent for 60 months potentially, to get a lump sum payment might be problematic for some of our constituents, unfortunately. And I don't know if there's any guidance or support. Maybe the Office of Financial Empowerment could provide some support to some of the clients that are moving temporarily, just to ensure that that money stretches for the period of time that they need it. That's it. Thank you very much.
Well, to that point, what is the purpose of those dollars? Is it specifically more or less ideally gauged for rent? Is that what that money's supposed to be used for?
Yeah, it's called the replacement housing payment, and it's specifically intended to cover the gap between what they're currently paying in rent and what they would be paying in their replacement unit.
So in
the
an
relocation period.
Okay, so in an ideal world, if I'm going to be out of here for 2 years, we prorate that 10,000 divided by 24, and it's whatever that number is, and I should be thinking in my head when I get that check, no, you need to put it in the bank, you need to set it off on the side, and we're only going to use it every month for this particular amount of dollars to subsidize the rent. That's the thinking behind that?
Correct. And I will say for some of the families where, yeah, we have to be careful because we can't steer, but we have tried to encourage some families who may have more of a struggle to consider subsidized sites where that would not be a concern.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, sir, thank you for coming in. Thank you for being here and sharing that information. If you and Leah can say hello before you guys get done, and we can get those answers in writing, that would be very helpful. And thank you for being here and sharing your information.
My pleasure.
All right, so introductory number 66. Need a motion we need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 66, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. Introductory number 67, resolution approving an appointment to the Board of Examining Stationary Engineers. Questions, comments, or concerns? If none, I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Moved and seconded, and now we vote. All in favor of introductory number 67, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Introductory passes. We are going to hold introductory number 68. We have a question from the district council member for the Northwest, Council Member Monroe, and her question is, what is the winter lease amount? So if you can get that answer to us in writing, that would be great. Does anyone else have any other questions, comments, or concerns regarding introductory number 68?
Just
Yes.
one question, and it may very well be in the information provided, so I apologize if it is, but the number of applicants, do we have a sense of how sought after this space was?
Council President, we received a total of 3 responses to the RFP, and we went through the 3 and selected this one as the one that best met the requirements in terms of the kind of operation and particularly the willingness to operate year-round.
Great, thank you.
All right. With that, with there being no other business before this committee, we stand adjourned. Thank you. Just a heads up, we'll be doing Aurora at 4:25. Man, that was a quick 5 minutes. Okay, at this time, I call the Aurora Resolution Review Committee to order and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Agent Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Agent Councilmember Gruber. Yep, here. Agent Councilmember Smith is excused. Agent Vice President Harris.
Here.
Agent President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, so we will not be voting on this item. We are simply the review committee. The item we have before us is URA 1. It is the annual report. I believe everyone has received it. Do any agents at this time have any questions or concerns about the annual report? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you. At this time, hang on. Where, Miguel, we need you back, sir. At this time, I call the Aurora Resolution Review Committee back to order. And I ask the clerk to call the roll. This will be brief.
Agent Councilmember Patterson.
Here.
Agent Councilmember Gruber.
Still here.
Wow.
Agent Councilmember Smith is excused. Agent Vice President Harris.
Here.
Agent President Melendez.
Here.
So we are apparently required to take some manner or form of action on this out of this review committee. And it is my hope to hold this item in the review committee for review at the full council meeting. And so we will be holding this item. And unless there are some other questions, comments, or concerns, we now stand adjourned.
Well, can I ask the question I asked you?
Absolutely. Yes.
Did we get this? Did we get a packet, or we just got the link? Was it in our? It was in the packet. Okay. I clearly haven't read it yet, but I will before the council meeting.
Which is why we're holding.
No, there was a packet.
Thank you.
All right, so now we stand adjourned again.
Council President.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Good. Are you ready? At this time, I will call the People, Parks, and Public Works Committee to order, and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Vice President Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Lightfoot is excused. Councilmember Lupien is excused. Councilmember Patterson. President Melendez.
Here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? Hope things well. Nice sunshine outside. This past Saturday, I hosted a 3rd annual Rock Senior Estate Planning Summit in collaboration with Mayor Malik D. Evans, Lifespan, and Senior Expressions founder and CEO Martha Hope. This event brought over 80 residents to Rochester together at the Joseph A. Floriano Convention Center, and it focused on crucial topics relating to aging like wills, identity theft, protection, and banking. Attendees learned from a series of workshops and were given an opportunity to interface with vendors offering advice and resources relating to aging. When I hosted the first Senior Estate Planning Summit, I vowed to help make sure wealth stays within the Rochester families where it can be passed along to the next generation. The Senior Estate Planning Summit is a shining example of this mission. To my fellow council colleagues, thank you for your support, and a special thank you to Council President Miguel Melendez, Councilmember Mitch Gruber for their attendance and remarks and presentations. And also a special thanks to all the other council members who supported. Councilmember Willie J. Lightfoot also for your attendance, and Assemblyman Demond Meeks, and to our council staff for your support in the organization of the event. To that end, we have one presentation today scheduled for this month's meeting. Today we have Director of Finance Kim Jones and Timothy Howard, Director of Purchasing, joining us to provide an overview of minority and women business-owned enterprise practices within the City of Rochester departments. Director Jones and Timothy Howard, you guys are all set, ready to go?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you, Vice President Harris.
Is your microphone on?
Oh, yep, it's on.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now
Okay,
better.
Thank you, Vice President Harris. Esteemed members of City Council, thank you for inviting us to provide an update on our MWBE initiatives. With me today, I have Timothy Howard, who is the Director of Purchasing. Timothy will guide us through the presentation.
There it goes.
Good afternoon, Vice President Harris, esteemed members of council. Good afternoon. Today we're looking at MWBE update, and what you have before you is an overview. We'll be looking at the MWBE ordinance 2018-54 that was effective July 1st of 2018. And we also will be looking at the MWBE workforce goals per the New York State Executive Law Article 15A. Many of you may know that our MWBE model and process is based off of the New York State Executive Law 15A that authorizes agencies to focus on or to attempt to achieve 30% goals for MWBE. It governs the MWBE process for the state of New York, or within the state of New York. We'll look at process steps to measure success, and we'll also look at MWBE goal progress to date and how purchasing works with departments, and then we'll take questions and answers. As I mentioned, ordinance number 2018-54 established the goal that MWEs will receive 30% of total annual contract award for contracts over $20,000 for 4 areas for purchasing for city contracts. Number 1, public works. Number 2, public works consultants and other professional consulting services, as well as commodities and services. And so these are the 4 areas within purchasing that our MWBE applies, and it's the basis by which we use from New York State, again, the Executive Law 15A. Our Ordinance 2018-54 further requires workforce goals to be incorporated into all city public works, professional service consultant, and public works consulting contracts. And so if you look at the next slide there, you'll see that the breakdown in terms of the percentages. So for MWE goals, all contracts and PSAs that are over $20,000, there's a 30% annual aggregate that is a goal to achieve. 20% for minority, 10% for women for public works, 15% for minority, 15% women for commodities and professional services, public works consultants, and other professional consulting services. And so that's the breakout there for workforce goals, all contracts and PSAs over $20,000, 20% of minority, 6.9% for women for all public works and professional service contracts. Some basic steps that we implement to measure success, and you'll see in these steps or included in these steps are ways that purchasing also work with departments. So first we issue a bid. The city has to issue a bid. And then the bidders, or those that respond, they propose how they will meet the goals. And so we then look at that, what they submit to us, and we verify whether they have the ability to meet the goals or not. Our MWBE officer approves the plan and the workforce staffing plan, and both become part of the executed contract after approval. Once the contract has been approved and implemented, now the contractors must submit their MWBE utilization reports. And this is we use a software platform called B2G Now to track these MWBE utilization reports with invoices, pay apps, and that's how we track it. Contractors also submit to us workforce utilization reports with invoices, and we use LCP Tracker as the platform to track that. And if there are modifications to the plan, we take that into consideration. We review those modifications to make change orders, and if there are waivers to be considered, we review those requests and then adjust the plan accordingly. And at the end of the contract, at the end of when the contract is done, actual utilization is compared to approved MWBE plan and workforce goals. And so along the way here, we're working with departments. Purchasing is working with all the departments to implement these MWBE plans. The progress to date, this chart reflects the first quarter, second, and where we are currently in the various categories, the amount of contracts that have been awarded. And our following slide, you'll see the participation breakdown by this award. And so you'll see in quarter one, a number 71 MWBEs participated across those categories, 41 in quarter two, and right now currently we just have 3 that have participated on contracts across these categories. The next slide shows us MWBE participation across departments. And you can see with the chart, the lion's share or the majority of these projects rest in Department of Environmental Services, DES. You can see in quarter one, 18, in quarter two, 9, and quarter three, 2 for Public Works Construction, and for Public Works Consulting in Q1 6, Q2 3, and 2 for Public Works Consulting. And then the last two were awarded relative to the commodity classification of contracts, and one of those went to the Communications Department. It was awarded to the Communications Department, and the other was the Fire Department. And so this chart shows that kind of distribution, if you will, of the MWBE participation or awards of contracts across departments. The next slide is a set of slides is a summary of what the departments are responsible to implement. The departments are responsible for all phases of the contract, from establishing the contract, administering the contract, and closing the contract out. And purchasing works with each of department to aid and help in those various phases. You can see here in the solicitation phase, we have to ensure that the draft bid that is sent out includes the requisite MWBE language and forms, the workforce development forms and language. We ensure that that is included in the bid specs before they go out. And prior to issuing them, the MWBE officer will review and to ensure that that the goals, the appropriate goals, are included in the bid spec. We also ensure that the respondents, those that are bidding, understand these goals and understand the level of participation that is expected of MWBE contractors as well as subcontractors. When we the second phase of establishing a contract, we look at the vendor selection process, and here we want to ensure that potential respondents to RFPs understand that the MWBE and workforce goals, the requirements relative to those goals, to ensure that they're meeting them, and then field any questions that they may have. And then if there are any issues that they have, we try to assist so we can always help reach those goals. We ensure that the respondents address MWBE and workforce goals in their responses. And the simplest way to do this is for them to submit their utilization plan and their workforce staffing plan. And that is a basis by which we engage with respondents, with bidders, to determine if they're meeting the goals or if they're not meeting the goals and how we can best assist them. In the contract approval process, there's a submission of the vendor selection process. In the case where there may not be a RFP that's issued, what is called a no RFP justification form is required, and the MWBE will review that form to make sure that that the proper process was followed, at least the solicitation portion was followed, and so that then helps to ensure that we are ensuring that the process is followed. The MWBE officer will want to review the selection process and propose a contract prior to signing off for the agenda review. In the final agreement, we have signatures to sign off on the contract, to execute the contract. And so we receive a final MWBE utilization plan, commonly known as Form A, and a workforce staffing plan for the contract. The officer must approve the MWBE utilization plan and sign off on the workforce staffing plan that are incorporated in the agreement. And so throughout this process, the purchasing department bureau is involved in trying to expedite and to ensure that the process is followed. You have to administer the contract, and so once the contract has been executed and now well underway, we want to ensure that the contractor submits all the required MWBE and workforce data with invoices and forms electronically or set up by the compliance officer or our MWBE officer. And so again, this is we're in constant communication with our MWBE contractors, our subcontractors, our prime contractors, to ensure that we have MWBE participation. And the MWBE officer is notified if there are any changes or any change orders that are required to be made and to be processed. We assist the MWBE officer to ensure reports are filed in a timely fashion. And then the closing out of contracts. Departments close out the contracts as part of the administration process. This includes ensuring that the contractor provides MWBE and workforce summary reports to the purchasing office, the MWBE officer, when the contract is completed before approving the final invoice. Working with the MWBE officer to address any issues, and filing summary reports and any planned changes approved by the MWBE officer with the contract closeout records. And so that concludes our MWBE update. And so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Before I give the floor to one of my colleagues, I have a question. With the MWBE, like if an organization became, have the MWBE status, does that mean they also have the state and county status? How does that work in relationship to the city's status?
Thank you for the question. So since we're based on the New York State Article 15A, we utilize New York State certified MWBEs. And so MWBE may be certified through the County of Monroe. They may be certified through some other municipalities, the City of New York, for an example. But for our purposes here in the City of Rochester, when we are, if you will, giving credit or awarding contracts to MWBEs, we look for them to be certified with the State of New York.
Thank you. So they're certified with the State of New York, not necessarily the county, or do we make sure, like if there's a county partnered contract, will we make sure that they're certified with the county as well?
We do not.
Okay. Thank you. I'll start with Councilmember Gruber going on down the line for questions.
Thanks for the thorough presentation. Just a question. I know that the state had a pretty significant backlog in the process for people to become certified, and that there was some work being put into this. I know this is a state question, not a city question, but is that backlog dealt with at this point?
Yes, thank you for acknowledging it's a state question. It has been addressed, and so to my understanding, they're still working on updating and getting contractors certified, but the backlog as it was before is not the same, and so but we can get an answer for you and return that to you in writing.
I guess now with the city lens of that, have we seen a significant increase in MWBE certified vendors applying for different bids? I mean, certainly when it comes to our major construction projects, it feels like we only have a very small universe of MWBEs. But I'm not sure if that's true of the other kind of professional services ones. Are we seeing more MWBE vendors actually applying for city contracts?
We haven't seen per se more apply, but we have seen those that have that are existing receiving additional projects or maybe additional opportunities, and certainly as many of you know, with a lot of the ARPA funded projects that provided additional opportunities for additional projects, and so there are MWBEs that wanted to participate in those projects, and so we saw those that had existing, say, certification receiving, say, additional opportunities.
Thanks.
President Melendez.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation today. Just some questions around the stated MWBE goals. So 30% annual aggregate and 26.9% for workforce goals. Are both of those set by the state, or is that internal to the city of Rochester? By the state. Okay. In terms of compliance then, so I think the easy one to track is when we have MWBE goals for contracting specifically, it's easy to know if someone is a minority or women-owned business and they're getting a contract. But when it comes to workforce goals, I know we have the utilization plan. When someone's not in compliance, what are the ramifications of that if someone does not meet the workforce goals as they progress through their project?
Thank you for asking that question. So it really depends on what the situation is and why those goals aren't being met. So there are various tools that we have at our disposal to try and ensure compliance, not limited to withholding maybe a pay app to ensure that there is compliance with work goals. And so it really depends on the situation and the nature of why they're not meeting those goals. And then based upon that information, that will inform the steps that we take in order to bring them, if you will, into compliance.
And a follow-up, I'm going to stick to workforce. So is there any data that well, I'm assuming there is. So could the administration provide us with the data on those that are in compliance, maybe by percentage, and those that are not in compliance, just so we can get a picture of how many Black and brown and women are being employed through the workforce of the various projects that we are doing?
Sure.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Patterson.
Mr. Howard, thank you for your presentation. I find this extremely enlightening. But here we go, right? Right. So, so the overview gives, so I want to thank you for page 5 of your presentation where you give the MWBE goals.
Councilmember, can you get into the mic?
I just want to
Sorry.
thank you for your page 5, your MWBE goals, and the MWBE goals and your workforce goals. I appreciate that. It's informative. I go now, direct your attention to, I believe this is page 9 of your presentation, MWBE participation 2024-2025 year to date. So you've got it broken out quarter 1, quarter 2, and current quarter. So obviously we're in the third quarter. It looks as though for your MWBE, you are, for quarter 1 and quarter 2, you exceeded the goal. We exceeded the goal as a city. Is that correct?
Yes. Okay.
So is that for workforce or is that for contracting? What is this information telling me? I'm trying to understand it.
What's in front of you reflects the number. So there are a number of contracts that were awarded, and when we break out those, say for an example, the first one is the public works construction. In the first quarter, there were 70 of them. 52% were minority MBEs. 52% of them were. 46% were WBEs, and then there were no duals. But when you see the public works consulting, you'll see that there were 11 that were awarded contracts that were awarded for NWBs in quarter 1, and 3% were M's, minorities, 10% women, and then there's a category called dual, 3%, and so that's how you read that across for both quarter 1, quarter 2, and where we are currently.
Okay, so so that's the contracting, but that's not the workforce.
Yes.
Okay, so we don't have any workforce information here in this presentation.
No, sir.
Okay, cool. So, Chair, if we could ask for that information, I'd appreciate it so we can get that.
Absolutely.
So, to that end, it's kind of funny. We literally, one of the items that we're going to be considering after this presentation, our first item is the Community Development Block Grant funding for the Maplewood Playground. And so it has utilization goals. And it has these utilization goals, which are great. One of the things, and I have to give Ms. Reeves credit for this, is that she made sure that in every transmittal, we have those goals in there. I guess one of the things I would ask is that we add a line here and put the workforce utilization goals in here if possible, but that ain't today. I guess my concern, though, is that as I read through this transmittal, it states that there was a design contract that was let. So we've been asking for that information for some time here. You know, the nature of a construction project is you put it out to bid, and, you know, part of that is somebody's got to design it, and then it comes back and somebody's got to build it. And usually we hire somebody to represent us while we're on that while that project's being built, to do the inspection piece. So I believe, unless I'm, you know, so for that design piece, is it correct that those utilization goals apply to the design portion of the contract for the project?
There are MWE. We try to ensure that there's MWE language throughout our process. So whether it's public public works, professional services, that can include public works consulting.
Okay.
So we work to ensure that MWE language is included in all those contracts.
So for all of our public works contracts, we usually have a design contract, we have the project representation contract, and then we have the person who's actually the company that's actually going to build that project. And all three of those contracts have the MWBE goals, not just for the actual contractor, but also for workforce. Is that correct? Those contract categories. Because normally we got somebody who we got somebody who designs it, and then while it's being built, we have somebody who does the inspection piece. They're looking at it, making sure that if we say it's got to be X number or what in it, that's what's in it. And then we've got the company that actually does the work and gets that done. And you're saying that all three of those categories have MWBE goals, not just for the companies, but also for the utilization of the workers?
That I'll come back to you in writing.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll get that answer to you in writing.
That's fair. Okay. So it's my hope, because we've been asking for this over and over again. It looks like we're meeting the goal, and I don't doubt that we're meeting the goal, but if I can't get individual project-based information, it's kind of hard to say, yes, for sure, we are meeting the goal. And the pushback I get on the community whenever we're rolling around is, okay, we see you doing all this work, but we don't see no black and brown people. And it's kind of hard to argue that and say, well, that's not true if I don't have any real numbers. Just driving by on a random construction site on a particular day, who knows? I mean, we're doing sidewalks. We routinely do sidewalks. I don't know what the utilization is for the workforce that's on those projects. I don't know what the utilization is for the contractors that are doing this work. We routinely do this work. So there's a range of work that we routinely do, milling and resurfacing. What is it? When we line the water lines, there's a lot of work that we do in this field, and I just don't know what that utilization is for that work. So it's my hope that we could come up with some mechanism where that information can be transmitted to us on a regular basis, so that when we get that pushback from the community, and we get that, district council members get that, we get that pushback in the community. I get beat up all the time. I don't see none of us out here. What y'all doing? I only see somebody with a flag. I hear that all the time. And so if we can get that information, it would be very useful. And if we can actually find a way to be transparent with that information, where we can say, like we always putting up a big board somewhere saying, this is what we're doing, here's how we're spending the money, here's what the project is, a QR code or something where we can say, you want to know what the utilization is? Here it is. It would be nice if we had that information available, because y'all actually have all the information in real time.
Councilmember Patterson, we can get you that information. Okay. And if you have a question about a particular project, we could actually get the MWBE workforce plan for you to review. Okay,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, if we can, I just want to reiterate, if we can add the workforce numbers or the workforce utilization to every actual job from now on. Thank you.
We can do that.
Council Vice President?
Yes.
Just one final thought there. So does the city create an annual report related to MWBE?
Yes, we do.
And does that report also break down individual projects, or is it cumulative?
I believe it's cumulative. It doesn't break down individual projects, but, you know, we do have the detail for any individual project.
As a matter of, for consideration, as a matter of public record, I know it's hard to do that for every single project, but we might want to consider, in the sake of transparency, having some level of, whether it's for every individual project or by workforce type, some kind of public report that really indicates at a deeper level how we're doing than the cumulative. Because cumulative, you can have one project with 52% like we have in the data here, and it looks like we're doing really great, but there might be some projects that just are not meeting the workforce goals, and I think we really want to get an understanding of what that looks like, because if there's a trend where there's an organization that's not meeting the workforce goals, I think it's problematic for us as a city. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, just let us know what you need and we will work to get you that information.
No further questions. That will conclude the presentation portion for this committee's meeting. Thank you very much for presenting today. We will now proceed with the legislation. Introductory number 69, amending ordinance number 2024-83 relating to the Maplewood Park Playground Project. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Need a motion and a second. Oh, Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. I think this is the first time I've seen the Maplewood Park Playground be, sorry, I don't know where I'm directing. Did Commissioner Green leave? There she is. I think this is the first time I'm seeing the Maplewood Park Playground be kind of segregated out from the larger Maplewood Nature Center project. So I'm just curious what the reasoning for that difference in language is.
The overall design was analyzed all together, but based on the different funding trajectories, we decided to split it into two pieces. So for example, the Nature Center itself was ARPA funding, so we need to get that into construction to meet the ARPA deadlines. And then this project had a different funding stream, so that was a little bit behind. So we bid that separately.
Okay, so the bidding has been untangled, but it's still, we're still seeing it. The project itself hasn't changed, and the timelines for the project are still on pace for what we assumed?
That's correct. Both of them will be built sort of along the same trajectory, and then everything will be opened around the same time.
Which is when? Remind me of that.
Should I give you the right information? Spring of 2026.
Great. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Councilman Patterson?
Yes, hello. Can we get the MWBE goals for the design phase of this project? And can we also get the workforce goals for the design phase of this project? It's obviously been designed, so you should be y'all, I'll take a minute, put it in writing, but we should be able to get that information. It shouldn't be too hard to provide.
We can work with our purchasing department to put that together for you.
Thank you.
No additional questions. Need a motion second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion carries. Introductory number 70, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing issuance of $822,000 bond of said city to finance the Maplewood Park Playground project. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion carries. Introductory number 71, authorizing an agreement for the Maplewood Park project.
Move it.
Need a motion a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 72, authorizing agreements and appropriations for the rehabilitation of the Andrew Street Bridge over the Genesee River project. Any questions, comments, or concern? Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. Can you just kind of walk me through what's happening here? This is maybe for the interim commissioner, for the city engineer. I'm just curious about what is being rehabbed. How does it relate to some of the developable properties adjacent to it? Treat me like I have no idea what's going on, because I am a little bit confused generally.
This is on the Andrew Street Bridge one?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's essentially we're doing repairs to the surface deck, the sidewalk, and also the rails along. So we received a federal grant for this. It's essentially doing restoration. There was deterioration of that bridge, so we're trying to do a renovation towards resurfacing that main deck. So
Got it. So of all the bridges, I know, I mean, obviously we just did Ponte Run recently,
Yep.
and previously to that we did I think the bridge that's kind of adjacent to the running track bridge that we had talked about. But of all the bridges currently, the Andrew Street Bridge is the one that is most in need of repair.
That is the one that we definitely deemed good for this application. I would say that a lot of our bridges still have a lot of needs. For example, for Ponte Run, we still need to paint that structure. There's a lot of long-term, larger needs there. With that said, we thought that Andrew Street was a really good one to do sort of preventative repairs on so that it didn't get to a state of bad repair.
Was this in the CIP last year too? Is this something that we had planned on doing?
It was not in the CIP, but we do keep that bridge. That's on our bridge inventory. So as a part of our annual bridge program, we inspect and monitor the conditions of all these bridges. And when these opportunities for funding come up, we take a look at which ones we think would be most appropriate for renovation.
Okay, and will this amount of money will actually get the rehab done?
Yes.
All very surprised. Thank you. You've answered my questions. All of it is very surprising to me, but I guess we all deserve to be surprised once in a while. Hoping that the $700,000 stretches as far as you're saying it's going to go.
Well, the overall project is over $4 million with federal funding.
Where am I seeing that?
It's not in there.
So we'll be coming back for the construction piece of it. This is just for the design.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the design, so the total federal grant is $4 million?
The total federal grant is $4.667 million and change.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And the city has a 5% match on that.
That makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Councilmember Patterson?
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, like, wait a minute. This isn't building the bridge. This is the design. I'm reading the transmittal. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, okay, yeah. So this is the transmittal. So significant amount of money for design. No complaints. Design and inspect. So what are we doing? We're design and inspection. It's going to be the same. I guess I'm a little concerned, and I'm concerned because we literally just had the MWBE presentation, and there are no MWBE goals that are expressed in this item. Why is that?
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's because of the DBE project. That's why we don't show it here. But yeah.
So because this is a federal aid project, we have to comply with DOT and the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise DBE utilization goals. So that's on the second page of the transmittal. So that's 20% of the design and RBR agreements and 5% for construction contracts.
Okay.
We can supply additional information on the DBE program if you would like.
Okay, so if you could expand that a little bit and kind of show it. I appreciate you pointing that out, that it's on the second page, hidden at the top. Good. But if you can also share with us what the expectation is, dollar amount and contractor amount for meeting these goals, that would be extremely useful too. Because it looks as though we've already got a firm that's going to be doing, we got one firm that's doing the work. So are they an MWBE firm?
We'll get that to you in writing.
Okay. And so then the next question would be, and so what is, since they're going to have to, well, I don't know. That's the other question. So what forms do they have to file to show that they're meeting the federal goals for workforce?
We'll get that information to you.
And do they actually, and I guess the other question is, do they actually have workforce goals because it's federal funded?
We'll get that information
Okay.
to you.
Thank
Absolutely.
Any additional questions? I need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 73, a resolution authorizing the implementation and funding of cost of 100% of state aid program eligible costs of Andrew Street over Genesee River Bridge replacement, which may be eligible for federal aid and state aid or reimbursement for Bridge New York funds. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 74, a bond ordinance of City of Rochester, New York, authorizing issuance of $3 million, $93,000 bonds of said city to finance certain costs of hazardous sidewalk replacement program, Northeast Quadrant, contract 2025, phase 2. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Patterson?
Can we get the last 5 years of MWBE contract goals and workforce utilization goals for our sidewalk replacement projects?
We will work with purchasing to see if that information is available.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I need a motion. Any additional questions? I need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 75, authorizing an agreement for hazardous sidewalk replacement program, Northeast Quadrant, contract 2025, phase 2. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Need
Second.
a motion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 76, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Brighton relating to chip seal and or milling and paving of the city's streets adjacent to the town of Brighton boundary. Councilmember Monroe must recuse. Actually, she's not here, so I'll need a motion and actually any discussion. Any discussion, any comments?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 77, amending the official map for Bulls Head Revitalization Street Improvement Project. A public hearing to be held Thursday, March 20th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilmember Patterson.
Just a comment. Whoever it was who decided to include the map that kind of showed what you were doing and where, thank you so much, because I'm reading this thing. This makes, what? Ruby play? Where is, okay, I get it. So you're taking little nips here and that and just kind of figuring things out and mushing it together so it'll all make sense when you get ready to build. Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Any additional comments? Need a motion and a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 78, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing issuance $460,000 bonds of said city to finance the cost of remedial investigation and implementation of remedial action work plan for the environmental contamination of the former vacuum oil refinery site. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Gruber.
Thanks. So just to be clear, Exxon is paying for this. That's what we know. I'm going to direct these questions to our corporation counsel, right?
That's correct. They are the legacy polluters, and they are paying for it.
And what kind of
ultimately?
And this is my sense is that this is early in the process of them doing these kinds of cleanups around the country. What kind of contractual language do we have at this point? I mean, what if they start and decide it's too expensive, they want to walk away from it?
So we spent a good amount of time working through exactly that, and that expense. They're on the hook for the cleanup, and the sooner they do it, the better, because things are just going to get more expensive. And so they don't really have a lot of wiggle room. The real question for us is just timeline, keeping them on a good timeline to get it done. And so that's what we're pushing them to do.
Okay, so this is a contract that was negotiated, I presume, with the help of, I assume we negotiated with them and they had some kind of court mandate to do so. Is that right?
So the prior owner of the Flint Street parcels got the judgment that makes them responsible for the cleanup.
Right.
So a lot of our negotiation, and we've been using outside counsel actually, who's been with us for a lot of environmental purposes to negotiate that. It's really been about coordinating the work on the city parcels that make up the Flint Street area, and then the Exxon-owned parcel that they'll do all the work.
Okay, thanks. It's the best thing that former owner of that building did was get that judgment, and let's hope that it actually moves us forward towards cleanup pretty fast.
I have a question. Could you please just, even if you put it in writing, provide us with the next meeting for Plex regarding this item?
You're asking for the next meeting?
Yes, when is the next meeting with the community Plex?
There's no currently planned
But when you put it,
public meetings, but we can,
okay.
we'll provide you in writing as to when we're doing the communication as to when we're starting the project.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'll need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 79, authorizing agreement for implementation and remedial action work plan for the former vacuum oil refinery site. Any more questions, comments, or concerns? Need a
Move it.
motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 80, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Searees Water District. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries. Introductory number 81, authorizing an agreement for drinking water quality compliance. Need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 82, authorizing a mandatory agreement for the Humane Society of Rochester and Monroe County. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Need a motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 83, amending the 2024-25 budget and authorizing agreements for park maintenance pilot programs. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Move it.
Need a
Question.
motion in a second. Oh, Councilmember President Melendez.
Yes, so first I want to comment and say thank you to the team in DRISE for helping the council push this forward and push this out to community members. I know that this was sent to organizations that had a permit last year, and we requested that they respond to this. The question I have is related to the possibility of, maybe not immediately, but down the road, reissuing the RFP or re-engaging some of those who do have a permit for this coming season to ensure that their needs are going to be met, because I think there's some organizations that unfortunately missed the, it really wasn't on us, but missed the opportunity to apply, and I wondered what the possibility might be to re-engage that.
I think it's possible for us to revisit that.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Introductory number 84, appropriating funds for geothermal capability study for the Interloop North Transformation Project area. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Patterson.
Just a comment. Just want to thank Council President Melendez and Councilmember Gruber for taking the lead on pushing this through. Big fan of geothermal. Love the idea of doing this in this nice big open space that we're going to have to rehab, and we can do some really cool stuff and hopefully tie this into housing. That would be impressive.
They'll be coming to make a presentation on Thursday about the study as well.
Wonderful.
I second that. Need a motion in a second.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And motion carries. With no further business, the People Parks and Public Works Committee stands adjourned.
so I can get ready